On today's episode of Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast, we're going to be talking about community building, your local impact plan.
Hi, I'm Karen Cooper, a wife, mom of three, real estate broker, team owner, and founder of Empowering Women in Real Estate. As a realtor, I've personally helped well over 700 families in my career, and now I help thousands of women from all across the country balance real life and real estate through daily inspiration, motivation, and actionable plans to increase their success. Listen in as I share stories and tips from my life and business and interview some of my favorite people.
Hi there, glad you're here for today's episode. I'm going to talk to you today about truly one of the best things I ever did for my real estate business, for my real estate sales business. And that was connecting and focusing on my community, my local community where I live. And that became my geographic farm, which I have farmed. I kind of hate that term, but I have farmed and nurtured for, oh gosh, a decade and a half, maybe even more than that. And it truly has been one of the very best things I've ever done for my business. In fact, it's kind of interesting to see the impact of doing that because, I send postcards every month to my geographic farm. I have for years, like 15 years. And I also add, when I look at my database, there's only maybe, I have a really large database, like 700 or so in my database. And there's maybe 200 people that are what I would consider like A or A plus people, or, maybe strong B plus people that I also want to get those postcards that I add to that monthly mailing list because they don't live in my geographic farm. Literally everyone else lives in my geographic farm. So that should give you some kind of point of reference. Truly, the majority of my business, my database, so much has been in my geographic farm. And it really didn't start out this way. And I think that's probably typical for most people when you start out in real estate, because in the beginning, you just kind of have to go anywhere and do anything and work, with anyone in any type of property in any location. And I certainly did that. The early part of my career, I would drive sometimes 90 minutes one way for a showing or a listing appointment, and that was not uncommon. But as time went on, and especially once I started to really gain momentum in my business, I started to retract, right? Is that the right word? Narrow in where I worked, and it became more and more focused and centralized around kind of like the western part of our county, which includes the city where I live, the town where I live, and then of course that town. And so it really has been such a blessing for me, and I'm all about working smarter, not harder. Things are infinitely easier for you when you do business this way. And I'm not saying that you only do business in your community and exactly where you live, but when you can put an emphasis there, you're able to get momentum faster. Now here's one thing that I want to say about this. And so many times I've heard, other real estate coaches talk about this. I've gotten the question many times from people about, well, I need to choose a farm. I need to choose a geographic farm. And people try to choose it strategically, right? Well, this one has this much turnover and this one has, but I'm telling you, just focus where you live. Because if you want to have farming as a strategy, and this episode is really not about farming. I mean, I guess it kind of is, but I'm not talking about farming like just sending postcards. But if you want to do any kind of farming, it is so much easier to do that where you live. You will have so much more success doing it right where you are versus trying to, break into a strategic neighborhood because you don't live there. You don't get the overlap. So, the thing is, our real estate businesses, so much of what we do, our businesses, obviously, it's tied to geography, right? It's tied to locations. But the thing is, I think it gets very easy for us to kind of fall into a pattern of just kind of working in a certain area, but not really being a part of it. And so when you can kind of shift your mindset around that, I think sometimes in this business, we really make things a lot harder than they are. Sometimes the simpler things sound, we kind of discount them and think that they can't really be effective, but truly they are. And so think about what you do where you live. For me, connecting with my local community, doing so much business here, becoming known for my local area, so much of it happens around what I already do. Like I'm not, and if you know me, I'm not like a big events person. I'm not doing all the networking things. Like that's not who I am. But there are already inherently, when I think back over, the last 24 years of my career, so many things that I'm just naturally already doing in my local community. And so anytime I'm going to invest time or money in my real estate business and my marketing, a lot of it is going to be focused around those things that I already do. But also it's taking full advantage of what I am already doing. Like I'm not doing extra things. I'm not doing special things. And when you can start to think this way, when you can start to open your mind and see all of the opportunities around you, it truly can change everything. So I'll give you like a bunch of examples, just kind of get your juices flowing and get you start thinking in this way. So, what do you do? What are the things that you're active with where you live? So one of them, when, my kids were little, was the schools. There is an elementary school in my town, which I happen to also go to that elementary school a very, very long time ago. There's an elementary school in my town. And when my kids were at the elementary school, I was very active at the elementary school. When they were at the local preschool, I was active at the local preschool. I would always sponsor things either for the preschool or at the elementary school. I always did the PTO newsletter thing. I would sponsor things for different activities. I would, have a banner in the cafeteria and, I was already there. It's like it gives you like a 10x effort. You're already there. The staff is seeing you, the teachers are seeing you, the other parents are seeing you because you're there in the school, you've got kids in the same classroom, and then they're seeing your banner. It's like it all starts to click and you get like 10 times the return. What are those sayings? People need to see you like, what is it, like 7, 8 times before they make a decision to work with you. And like you're getting that automatically. So I would do anything that I could with the schools when my kids were there. So make sure you hear that. When my kids were no longer at those schools, over time, maybe for a year or two while I still had some connections or people that I knew still had kids there, then I would still do some things, but that would start to taper off as time went on because it just didn't make any sense anymore. The staff turned over, teachers turned over, the parents, I no longer knew the parents with the kids in first grade or kindergarten or fifth grade or whatever. And so I just would not get the same return. And so over time, I would shift away from that. When my kids were in elementary school, even in preschool, anytime I would go and pick them up, like if I had to pick them up early, I would take a pop by. I would take multiple pop bys with me and I would give them to all of the secretaries in the front office. And when over time, I have done business. I did business with every single one of them. And the teachers, I often would do a back to school pop by in August. And so when I would go for like the meet the teacher night, I would give it to them and I would say, hey, this is something that I'm giving out to my clients this month. And, I thought this might be really helpful for you and, helpful for the classroom. And so it just, and I've done business with multiple of my kids' teachers. So, it's just, when you can start to think this way, you can start to see how that can build over time. And then, of course, once my kids got into middle school, I did do some things there. I, sponsored like a backpack program and did a couple things, but it got less and less. And I think as they get older, you start to do, less and less in those ways. And when my kids were little, sports, I would often sponsor the baseball team or, I would pay for the end of the season picnic or whatever and would get some sponsorship stuff there. And so, anything that I do, again, I'm already there. I'm already active. I'm already showing up to the game. So why not take advantage of that. Like I already know the parents, I've already got some kind of connection with them. So why not get my face in front of them in a different way? Clubs, if you are active with any kind of, and I haven't done this in a very long time, but I used to be very active with different like clubs, and I was on the advisory board of the community center, and I was on the town council at one point. This was even long before real estate. And so if I was still doing those things now, like that would be another place where I could start to, be active and do sponsorships when there would be large events. When I was active in my sales career, I've been out of production now for quite a few years. I would always sponsor those events. I led a networking group for business owners, something that I naturally enjoy. In fact, some of my very best vendors that I still use to this very day, I met leading those networking groups. And it was just a once a month. We would always, use a local business. So I got to know the local business owner, of the restaurant where we would do the meeting and just kind of build those relationships. And I've done business with so many of those people. And that's just something that's very natural to me, something that I enjoy.
There's something about midlife in real estate that nobody really talks about. You don't hate the business. In fact, you're probably really good at it. But sometimes after years or even decades, you just realize that you don't want to keep running your business the same way. Maybe you want fewer clients or you're ready to step back from production altogether. And that's why I created the Midlife Real Estate Blueprint. It will help you to redesign your business for the next chapter and whatever that looks like for you. Visit empoweringwomenrealestate.com and click on Midlife Real Estate Blueprint to learn more.
Something that makes a lot of sense. Take advantage of your hobbies. If you're doing any of the local, like at the community center where I live, there's all kinds of different activities that you can be a part of. If you don't have kids and that's something that you want to do and is natural to you, it's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to build relationships. And then it kind of opens you up to, okay, are there any opportunities where I can get my signage, where I can get my sponsorship, where I can get my name out there? Like tagging local businesses, tagging local whatever of where you are, it all helps. Think about the local restaurants that you go to. The day that I'm recording this for you, we're going out to dinner tonight, my family, and I will take a picture of something while I'm there at the restaurant, and I will tag the business and I will post it. And so it's just that, and usually the business will reshare that. And then it kind of gets my name out there again. It's just that consistent supporting and showing that, okay, I'm here, I'm local, I don't just do business here, I live here too, I care about this community. And that's how you start to really, really build your business. Shopping, I do the same thing. Local stores. Anytime I go, there's a cute little boutique here that I love. Anytime I go there, I always do a series of, like, sometimes I'll do a reel, or I'll do stories, anything that I can do to kind of support them, tag them, promote them. Social media, anytime I use a local vendor, and I've had this happen, we've had a lot of things recently, but I've had this happen a couple of times. Just recently, once I had to use, our mower was in the shop, so we had to use somebody for a one-time mow, and it was a local company. So not only did I go to the local moms Facebook group, but also on my own personal page, I posted and just like gave them a shout out and said, hey, they were great. We were in a pinch. They did a great job. Same thing. We had somebody else. We had to have an excavator. And so same thing. I did the exact same thing. So anytime that you can do that and promote those local businesses, like you're showing so many things when you do that. You are reminding people that you're here. You're reminding them that you're local. You're reminding them that you care about the community. You are reminding them that, you are somebody who is giving. Not everybody, usually when people go online, think about this, think about your own Facebook feed or Instagram feed or whatever. Mostly I think we see this on Facebook, but mostly what you see is somebody is complaining about a business and telling a bad experience that they had. And so when you are putting out that energy of, this is who I used and I had a really great experience and you should check them out too. Like it just kind of shifts the mindset around you and what you do. I do my vendor list My preferred vendor list that I use has, I don't know, 40 businesses, I think, on it. I made sure that I added a lot of even not what you would think of as your typical local business. Like I've got, like a dog trainer on there. I've got somebody who clips the dogs and cats' nails. I've got somebody who bales hay. Like, it's not your typical like painter, plumber, electrician. I really sat and thought about who are all the local businesses that I use and or have used at any given point. And not my entire vendor list is local just because, I live in a small town and it's just not. But the majority, like probably 60% is. And so I even made it a point on my vendor list because I know that my vendor list is going out primarily to people in my geographic farm. On a lot of my postcards that I put out, I'm promoting a local business. I have a QR code on there that says, if, I know all the best people, if you need another service, then, scan this and you can get my vendor list. And so that goes out to so many people. And what I did on there, on that vendor list is I highlighted and like I put a little asterisk and I noted every single business that is local to my geographic farm. And so it just, again, reinforces that, I am the person here and I care about this area. What's really funny is recently I had done an update of my vendor list for someone. And so I decided to share it and to share it online in the local moms group. And I actually had a ton of people that reached out to me that wanted to know how could they get on my list. Have local businesses. I didn't know them. So now that's opened a door for me to make some new connections, which is great because, again, I'm in a different phase of my life and my career. And, my kids aren't in local sports anymore and don't go to the local schools. And so, your connections become different. And so it's opened the door for me to meet up with new people that I don't know and to build those relationships and add them onto my vendor list. So, it's just, and these are little things that don't have to take a lot of time or energy. When I do this stuff, I'm not working harder. I'm taking what I'm already doing, where I already am, and I am just going a little bit deeper. And this is where I think a lot of us really struggle in our businesses is when we're not sure what to do or we don't have confidence in what we're doing, that we end up bouncing around from thing to thing. Let me try a little bit of this. Let me try a little bit of that. But the problem is when you are spreading yourself so thin that way, you're not going deep enough in any single area enough to really see results. And this is so easy to do with your local community because you are already here. And I've given you a bunch of ideas, but I mean, I could probably go on and on about this and come up with 100 more ideas. There is a practically infinite number of ideas that you can come up with for ways to really get fully engaged and connected with your local community. If there isn't already, and there probably might be because now Facebook groups are very common, but if there isn't already like a local active, make sure it's active because there's plenty of groups and pages that aren't. Start your own local group. And talk about the community and share about the community. And, maybe it would be a mom's group and you talk about things that are unique and special to moms. I mean, I do this and I know so many other people do. When you need something, what do? You go to your hive, right? You go to your local people, you go to your local community. And so when you can really plug into that, it's amazing. One of my goals has really kind of always been to become synonymous with my community. And it really truly has been. I mean, over the years, so many times I've had other agents would reach out to me because they know I'm here and they know I do a lot of business here and they know I'm well connected here. And when they have a buyer that is looking for something, they would call me and see if I have anything coming or call me and see if my team has anything coming. I've had agents that have had listings that they were going to be having here because nobody gets all 100% of the business. And they would ask me for advice on pricing. And that's a huge compliment. I take that as a compliment. And I remember one time I was having coffee with a friend who became a client, somebody I'd met through local community things, and she was talking about a post, and this I'm talking this was like 10 years ago, and she was talking about a post that I did one day where I had visited a local restaurant. I had had lunch with another local person, local business owner who also became a client. And I tagged that restaurant. I shared pictures of my food, and she said to me that, she saw my post and she said, I thought to myself, she just saved that business, because she was kind of giving that emphasis of like, I have a big following, a lot of eyes, and I'm putting that on this local business and how valuable that was. And so don't discount that. I think we sometimes discount and discredit the impact that we really can have. It doesn't matter if you have 100 followers or 100,000. I like to think of it. I heard this one time, especially in the social media world. It's easy to, it's all about the numbers, right? You can't feel proud about what you have because this one's got 40,000, this one's got 100,000, this one has 1 million followers. Like, so if you've got 100 or 200, you think, oh, this is nothing. There's no impact here. But think about that many people in a room. When you think of it that way, if you're talking to 100 or 200 people in a room, that's a lot of people. And I think because it's on social media, we don't necessarily view it that way. So it doesn't matter how many followers you have, you can use that to influence your local market and your local community. And eventually that is all going to come back and turn around and come back to you. So just a few thoughts that I have today on building your local impact plan. I mean, I think my number one bit of advice or suggestion, if you're feeling a little stuck on this, is take a minute. Maybe you pull out your calendar and think about, make a list of all of the things that you have done in your local community over the past week. Did you get groceries at the local store? Did you pick up dinner? Did you go out to dinner at a local place? Did you get coffee at a local place? Did you stop at a local shop? Did your kid have a game? Did you go to the school? Did your kid go to the school? Did you go to an exercise class? Like, think about all of the things that you did in your local area and start there. Those are the places to start. How can you take what you already did, what you're already doing, and turn that into content, turn that into visibility, and turn that into connection? And when you can start to think this way and to do business this way, it actually is really fun. It's a great feeling to have most of your business be like 5 minutes from your house, right? So think about that. So this topic, by the way, is our topic for our Empowering Women in Real Estate monthly meetups for the month of May. If you don't know, our community, actually Empowering Women in Real Estate, so many people I find they find the podcast first, but the podcast actually came later. And the podcast came from our community, our group, speaking of community, Empowering Women in Real Estate on Facebook, where we have well over 41,000 women in the real estate industry there. And one of the things that we do is we have a whole host of cities across the country. We even have one in Canada that get together, where groups of our members get together each month in their city and they talk about a topic. It's free. It's very casual. The only cost that you have is depending on if it's most groups meet for lunch. There are some that meet for coffee. I think there's actually even one that meets for happy hour. But your only cost would be whatever you might order for yourself, but there's no cost to actually attend. And then there's a conversation around a topic. And this is that topic for the month of May. So if you are curious if there is a monthly meetup in your city, the best thing to do is to go to our website, empoweringwomeninrealestate.com, and click on monthly meetups. And there you will see a list of all of our currently active locations. And if you don't see your city on that list and you are interested in becoming a local leader and bringing these monthly meetups, these little gathering conversations to your city, there is also a spot where you can click and learn more about what it means to become a local leader and to have a local leader license so that you can lead these meetups. And then lastly, we are a big group, and we obviously aren't able to get to everyone for a physical meetup to talk about our topic every month. And so I host a virtual meetup The virtual meetup for the month of May, where we are digging deeper into this topic, is going to be on Thursday, May the 7th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here in the description, the show notes for this episode, there will be a link where you can go and you can register. There's no cost to attend. It's on Zoom. All you have to do is register and get the Zoom link. And then we have a nice conversation there. So there you go. That's it. Community building, your local impact plan. Thanks for being here. Hope to see you next week. And until next time, stay well.
Thank you for listening to Empowering Women in Real Estate, the podcast. Click subscribe to be notified every Wednesday when our latest episode is released, and be sure to check out our group on Facebook.